Hamilton's Ferrari win did not just embarrass Mercedes. It revealed the weakness Toto Wolff cannot hide anymore. Because the W17 looked unbeatable when the season began. It had the energy advantage, the traction, the straight-line speed, and the kind of control that makes rivals feel helpless before the race even reaches the braking zone. But Barcelona changed everything. Hamilton won in a Ferrari that still has a known power deficit. And that single fact should terrify Mercedes, because it means the W17 does not need to be beaten everywhere. It only needs to be dragged away from the conditions that make it look invincible. That is the crack. Mercedes is dominant when its energy deployment, active aero, and corner exit traction all work together perfectly. But when Hamilton finds a track where Ferrari's corner speed matters more, the W17 suddenly looks less like a monster, and more like a machine with limits. And Hamilton knows those limits better than anyone. He spent 12 seasons inside Mercedes. He knows how Wolff's team hides performance. He knows how a small advantage becomes a championship weapon. And now, he has given Ferrari something far more dangerous than hope. He has given them proof. If Hamilton can beat Mercedes before Ferrari has even solved its biggest weakness, what happens when Ferrari gets closer? Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this hit Mercedes so hard, you have to forget the idea that this was just one race. One race can be explained away. A team can blame the track, the tires, the setup, the temperature, the timing of the pit stops. Formula One is full of reasons that make a defeat sound smaller than it really is. But Hamilton's win was different, because it connected with every warning sign that had already appeared. Mercedes had spent the early part of the season building an image of control. The W17 looked like the car that had understood the new rules before everyone else had even finished asking the right questions. It was fast in the places that hurt rivals most. It had the acceleration out of corners. It had the straight-line punch. It had the energy deployment that seemed to last longer than Ferrari could answer. And that kind of speed does not just win races. It changes how opponents think. When a Mercedes pulls away at the end of a straight, the driver behind does not just lose a few meters. He loses the chance to attack. He loses tire life trying to stay close. He loses confidence because his best moment disappears before the braking zone arrives. That was the power of the W17. It made rivals feel like the fight was over before the move could even begin. Hamilton knew that feeling better than anyone, because for years, he had been on the other side of it. He had been the driver inside the Mercedes machine, watching other teams chase, overheat their tires, burn through their strategy, and slowly realize they were not fighting one weakness. They were fighting a system. Now, in Ferrari red, Hamilton was staring at that system from the outside. And that is why his win changed the story. He did not beat Mercedes by pretending the W17 was slow. He beat Mercedes by showing that its dominance depends on the race giving it the right conditions to use its strongest weapon. That is the crack Toto Wolff cannot hide. Because the W17 is not a simple car with a simple advantage. It is a connected machine. Its strength comes from the way several pieces work together at the same time. The active aero opens to reduce drag on the straight. The electrical energy arrives with force. The rear tires accept the power. The car keeps pulling when others begin to fade. When that chain works perfectly, Mercedes looks untouchable. But when the chain is interrupted, the picture changes. Barcelona gave Hamilton the kind of battlefield Ferrari needed. It gave him corners where the Ferrari's strong core could matter. It gave him rhythm. It gave him enough medium speed sections to stop the race from becoming only about Mercedes' straight-line weapon. And that is the part that should worry Wolff most. Ferrari did not need to solve everything. Hamilton had already admitted that the power deficit was still there. He had already warned that long straights would continue to hurt. He had already made it clear that Mercedes had an advantage in the way it deployed energy at the end of the straights. But even with that weakness still alive, Ferrari won. That means Mercedes is not dealing with a rival who has found the final answer. They are dealing with a rival who has found the first door. And in Formula One, the first door is often the most dangerous one. Because once a team knows where a dominant car can be hurt, the entire project changes. The engineers stop chasing shadows. The strategy team starts building weekends around specific conditions. The driver stops hoping for a miracle and starts attacking with purpose. That is what Hamilton has given Ferrari. Purpose. He has shown them that the W17 can be dragged away from its comfort zone. He has shown them that if Ferrari can keep the battle alive through the corners, Mercedes does not always get enough road to make its energy advantage decisive. He has shown them that the car everyone feared still has limits. And limits are everything. A dominant car with no visible limits creates fear. A dominant car with visible limits creates a target. That is why this is not just pressure on the engineers. It is pressure on the whole Mercedes structure. Wolff has to protect belief inside the garage. Antonelli has to keep winning while knowing Hamilton has proof now. Russell has to avoid losing major points on messy weekends. The strategists have to make sure Ferrari does not control the shape of the race. And every technical decision becomes heavier, because changing one part of a connected system can disturb another. If Mercedes becomes too cautious with energy deployment, it may lose the very punch that protects it on the straights. If it chases maximum performance, it may expose reliability or tire stress. If it adjusts the car to broaden its comfort zone, it may soften the sharp edge that made the W17 so dangerous in the first place. That is the hidden tension. The car is brilliant because everything works together. But that also means Mercedes cannot hide behind one easy explanation when Ferrari beats it. They cannot say it was only power. They cannot say it was only aero. They cannot say it was only traction. Hamilton's win exposed the truth that all of those areas are connected, and when Ferrari finds a way to reduce the value of that connection, Mercedes suddenly looks human. That word matters. Human. Because the opening races made Mercedes look mechanical, inevitable, almost untouchable. Barcelona brought emotion back into the fight. It reminded everyone that even the smartest car on the grid can be forced into discomfort if the rival finds the right pressure point. And Hamilton is the worst possible rival to find it. He knows Mercedes' habits. He knows how that team builds confidence. He knows how Wolff protects performance through calm messaging and controlled pressure. He knows that a single weakness does not need to destroy a car overnight. It only needs to create doubt. Doubt inside the rival garage. Doubt inside strategy meetings. Doubt in the driver's mind when a Ferrari appears in the mirrors and the track ahead is not long enough to escape. That is what changed after Hamilton's win. Mercedes still has the W17. They still have speed. They still have a championship weapon. But now Ferrari has a map. And once Hamilton has a map, Wolff knows the chase becomes much harder to control. The next layer is where Hamilton's win becomes more dangerous than the result itself. Because the victory did not only expose a weakness in the W17. It exposed a weakness in the way Mercedes now has to defend the car. Before Barcelona, Mercedes could control the conversation. If rivals complained about the straight-line speed, Mercedes could point to engineering. If teams questioned the front-wing behavior, Mercedes could point to the governing body's review. If Ferrari talked about power deficits, Mercedes could stay calm because the stopwatch was still protecting them. But once Hamilton won, that protection became thinner. Suddenly, every Mercedes strength had a question attached to it. The energy deployment was still impressive, but could it win when Ferrari stayed close through the technical sections? The straight-line speed was still dangerous, but could it decide the race if the circuit did not give it enough time to breathe? The active aero was still part of the W17's advantage, but could Mercedes keep every moving part working cleanly under pressure, scrutiny, and development demands? That is the uncomfortable part. A dominant team does not only need speed. It needs the feeling that its speed is inevitable. Hamilton damaged that feeling. And once inevitability disappears, pressure enters the garage. This is where Toto Wolff's situation becomes so difficult. He is not managing a slow team. That would be simpler in some ways. A slow team knows it has to chase. It knows the story. It knows the mission. Mercedes has a faster, more complex problem. They have a car good enough to win the championship, but now visible enough to be attacked. That creates a strange kind of tension. Because when your rival is far behind, you build freely. When your rival is close and understands you, every decision becomes defensive. Even aggressive decisions carry fear. You ask yourself, are we improving the car, or are we disturbing the balance that made it special? Are we protecting the advantage, or making it narrower? Are we reacting to Ferrari, or forcing Ferrari to react to us? Those questions matter because the W17 is not built around one simple strength. It is built around timing. The wing has to open and close at the correct moment. The electrical energy has to arrive in the right phase of the straight. The rear tires have to accept the acceleration without wasting grip. The car has to leave the corner cleanly enough for the whole system to work. When all of it happens together, Mercedes looks brutal. But if Ferrari can interrupt that rhythm, Mercedes stops looking like a monster and starts looking like a machine that needs everything aligned. That is exactly what Hamilton exposed. He did not need to prove Ferrari was better everywhere. He only needed to prove that Mercedes could be pulled into a race where its strongest weapon was not always decisive. That is why Barcelona will not leave the mines inside Mercedes quickly. Because Ferrari won while still carrying the power deficit Hamilton had already admitted. That is the sentence that changes the pressure. Ferrari did not arrive with a perfect car. It arrived with a flawed car, driven perfectly on a track that let its strengths matter more than its weakness. And if a flawed Ferrari can beat Mercedes once, then a slightly improved Ferrari can become a much bigger threat. That is what Wolff has to calculate now. Not just what Ferrari is today. What Ferrari becomes if the team finds even a small amount of extra power, a cleaner deployment map, or better protection on the straights. Formula One is rarely transformed by one giant leap. More often, the season changes through small gains that arrive at the exact moment a rival begins to feel pressure. A tenth here. A cleaner exit there. A little more electrical energy held until the end of the straight. A better tire life window when following closely. Individually, those things sound small. Together, they turn a car from hopeful into dangerous. And Hamilton is the kind of driver who can make small gains feel enormous. That is why Mercedes cannot afford to treat this like normal Ferrari momentum. Hamilton is not only pushing Ferrari forward with driving. He is giving them direction. He has already told the world where the Mercedes advantage lives. He has already explained the sensation of chasing a car that still pulls away when overtake mode is activated. He has already made clear that Ferrari's issue is not simply one poor corner, or one bad setup, or one weak weekend. It is the end of the straight. It is the deployment phase. It is the moment when Mercedes still has energy and Ferrari begins to fade. That knowledge makes Ferrari more efficient in the chase. And it makes Mercedes easier to study. For Wolff, that is the hidden danger. The W17 may still be fast, but it is no longer mysterious in the same way. Rivals have stopped staring only at the overall lap time. They are now looking at the phases. They are breaking the lap apart. They are asking where Mercedes gains, where Ferrari survives, and where Hamilton can change the race before the straight becomes fatal. That is how dominance gets dismantled. Not by copying the whole car overnight. By reducing the value of its strongest moments. The front wing controversy showed how quickly Mercedes can become the center of suspicion. The car appeared to move its wing flaps in a way rivals wanted explained. The governing body investigated, accepted the mechanical explanation, and cleared Mercedes of deliberate wrongdoing. The issue was linked to the wing struggling against aerodynamic load and hydraulic pressure at high speed. That should have closed the door. But in Formula One, a closed investigation does not always close the doubt. Especially when the car keeps winning. Every rival now knows Mercedes is operating in a narrow and complicated rule environment. The new active aero rules demand precision. The car must change modes quickly. The energy system must match that change. The whole package has to work without appearing to exploit anything beyond the regulations. So even when Mercedes is legal, they are still being watched. And after Hamilton's win, that attention becomes harsher. Because now rivals are not watching from helplessness. They are watching with belief. That difference matters. A helpless rival complains. A believing rival attacks. Ferrari has moved closer to the second category. Barcelona gave Hamilton more than a trophy. It gave him the right to push Ferrari harder. It gave the engineers proof that the core of the car can win. It gave the strategists evidence that Mercedes can be forced into less comfortable races. And it gave the entire garage a reason to believe that the W17 is not protected everywhere.